Okay, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the October 28th, 2022 CEP Strategic Advisory Committee meeting. I call this meeting to order. Luke, will you please call the roll?
Yes. Vice Mayor Chow?
Here.
Councilmember Moore?
Here.
Housing Commission Chair Parrish? Planning Commission Chair Sharp?
Here.
Okay, 3 of 4 members are present, so we have a quorum.
All right, thank you, Luke. First, we begin with item 1, approval of the minutes. The subject is to approve the minutes from the September 16th Community Engagement Plan Strategic Advisory Committee special meeting. So we'll take a moment to go over the meeting minutes, and I'll see if there are any members of the public with their hands raised with any comments or edits for the meeting minutes. Okay, I'm not seeing any hands raised for members of the public. I'm going to close public comment, bring it back to the committee. Do we have any questions or edits regarding the meeting minutes from September 16th? And I do appreciate the statistics which are included in the meeting minutes from the survey respondents. That's a nice addition. Right, so do I have a motion to approve the minutes of the September 16th CEP Strategic Advisory Committee special meeting?
I can make the motion, but I was absent because I won't vote. I'll abstain, but I'll make the motion to approve them anyway.
Thank you, Planning Commission Chair Scharf. Do I have a second? Okay, I'm going to go ahead and second that. So we have, okay, at issue is, has Housing Commission Chair Parrish signed in yet? No, okay. So if you're going to be abstaining, that just leaves myself and the vice mayor voting. City attorney, would that pass it or not?
So on this item, you can act by a majority of members present, yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, Luke, will you please conduct the roll call vote?
Yes. Vice Mayor Chow?
Aye.
Councilmember Moore?
Aye.
And I believe that would be it for who can vote on this item.
I would still call Planning Commission Chair Scharf.
Excuse me. Planning Commission Chair Sharp?
Abstain.
Okay, that's 2-0 with 1 abstention.
Okay, and an absence. Okay. Thank you. So that completes item 1. Next is postponements. We have no postponements, so we move on to oral communications. This portion of the meeting is reserved for persons wishing to address the committee on any matter within the jurisdiction of the committee and not on the agenda. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes. In most cases, state law will prohibit the committee from making any decisions with respect to a matter not on the agenda. So we are doing oral communications, and we see a couple of hands raised. First, we have Jennifer. Welcome, Jennifer. Oh, hold on for a moment. Hold on for a moment, Jennifer. Chair recognizes Housing Commission Parrish is present now. Okay, so back to oral communications. Welcome, Jennifer.
Oh, I unmute. I think I unmuted myself. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Or, okay,
welcome.
Sorry. Yeah, I needed. Anyway, yes, good to see you all this morning. I want to commend everyone. This has been a very long year with the housing element. Not to dwell on that, I just wanted to bring up something which I'm sure people are aware of. I have a concern that some of the housing bills which the governor just signed into law I believe it was 3 to 4 weeks ago, mainly AB 2097 and AB 2011. I believe that they will be allowed to be enacted as legal in January 1st, 2023. And a lot of people are still confused about I'm going to pick on these two bills. 2097 is the reduction in parking bill by Laura Friedman out of Glendale, and AB 2011 is Buffy Wicks, and I think Mr. Weiner, that is the one that you can build housing on former commercial areas, strip malls, etc. And a lot of the public do not fully understand or comprehend these two bills, and yet they were enacted in February. I believe 2011 was a one of those gut and amends on Valentine's Day in February by Buffy Wicks, and we haven't had time to process these, yet they are becoming legal law. That's redundant, January 1st. And we don't know how they're going to affect us. And I'm really concerned that in light of the housing element, I know we're talking about that later, but any type of land, can 2097 be enacted on existing projects? If we've upzoned things at the dictate of HCD or the state, can people enact 2097 and have a reduction in parking? We have not, I'm sorry, the public has not been able to weigh in on this. I have mobility issues, and I want to make sure that my voice is heard in terms of if you're going to be pulling out great amounts of parking in this state, the public needs to voice it, because it doesn't look like the legislators that passed these bills were even aware or thinking of it. So I'm just wondering if these bills can be applied to current construction sites that we have. Can they be invoked as of January 1st? I really, really think we need to have a discussion about that. And 2011 really concerns me with the environmental issues. Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you, Jennifer. Next, we have Lisa Warren. I just want to remind the public that the oral communications are limited to the subject matter jurisdiction of the committee. So next we have Lisa Warren. Welcome, Lisa.
There it goes.
Okay, there you go. Welcome, Lisa.
Hi, good morning. So I'm hoping this is jurisdiction is correct. Yes, I'm just because I'm not able to find anywhere else. Actually, staff was asked to contact me weeks ago about the schedule for going further with the housing element. I haven't heard from anyone. Specifically, I wanted to know the next chance for public to speak about site selection and the other things that may not be part of this meeting or in this committee's job, but I just need some kind of calendar so we don't miss our opportunities to comment on an EIR and other things. And I have heard through some grapevine that EMC is no longer involved in this process. So if that is accurate, and I'm not sad about that by any stretch, I don't think I went to one meeting where there wasn't a complaint about their swiftness and organization, et cetera, of what they were contracted to do. I'm worried about whether we get some reimbursement from them if they are truly gone. And I just think the public needs to know more about where we're at, because there's so many different things flying around next door and in campaigns that are confusing people. And maybe, honestly, maybe you guys don't know either, but we need to know what you know. Not saying anything is very unsettling to people. So that's it. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Lisa. Reset the timer. And next we have Yuko Shima. Welcome, Yuko.
Hi, everyone.
Good morning.
Thank you. I'd like to suggest a dormitory for De Anza students and Foothill College students near De Anza College. The location I have in mind is either the empty parking lot sitting next to the old closed Pizza Hut on Stevens Creek between Staples and Party America or Party Store. There's a huge lot, and I think that land could be a good spot for students' dormitory. And I have another crazy idea about converting the Cupertino City Sports Center's 12 dormitory area into the tennis courts area into the dormitory, because it's right across from a Whole Foods market and right across from De Anza College, which is a very safe and convenient location for the students. And I suggest that because I know the situation now that many students don't have apartment, but they are mostly sharing one apartment with several other people or sharing a house with several other people. And it's not like very stable condition. And I'm hoping that the dormitory can be city owned so that city could generate income out of it. And also that will create jobs. In the worst scenario, where if there's no housing for students, they rent Airbnb and they stay at hotels. They spend a lot of money that way. Very stable living, unstable living, I'm sorry. They're very unstable. So it's better to prepare some sort of housing for the other students and Foothill College students. And as for the matter of city-owned, if you think it's going to be too much of a responsibility or there will be a liability issue, I think city can get good insurance to
15 seconds.
Okay. I think I had it. I talked a lot. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Right. Thank you, Yuko.
Thank you.
And seeing no more hands raised, we are closing public comment. We'll bring it back to public hearings. We have no old business. Our new business is item 2. The subject is a report from staff regarding the September 26, 2022 community meeting and concluding remarks. The recommended action is to receive the report and provide input to staff regarding future community engagement opportunities. And I'll turn it over to Luke. Welcome, Luke.
Okay, thank you, Councilmember Moore. Unlike our previous meetings, this is the 8th meeting of the committee. There's not going to be a formal presentation. There's no PowerPoint or anything quite like that. This is more of an update for this meeting. We last met on September 16th, and the most notable event in terms of outreach was on September 26th. We held the 3rd of our community meetings focused on AFFH compliance issues. We had about 67 attendees, I believe, at this virtual meeting. It focused on lower income homeowners and commuters to the city of Cupertino. We had 5 panelists, which also included Carol Kahn, the executive director of Project Sentinel. So I do not have the final report on that. I had hoped to have it. We have not received that yet. Overall, the meeting went close to 2 hours. Again, it was well attended, and think we had a lot of good comments and input received at that meeting. So it was the third in that series we planned, and I think it ended on a high note. One other update I do want to give, which I believe Ms. Warren touched on in the communications, is EMC is no longer the consultant on the project, which is why they're not here today. But we are waiting on the report from the community meeting, which they will be preparing. So in terms of schedule, that's one factor that right now we're going to be seeking a new consultant to pick up the housing element and complete the project, and also take on the CEQA component as well. So I do hope to have a tentative schedule in the coming weeks with how this project will proceed. The goal is to have an update in November with the city council as well, a status update for the project. So in a couple weeks, we should be in a much better position to be able to outline essentially what Ms. Warren was asking, where we stand and how we're going to proceed. So I would be happy to give an update on that when we have that finalized. For today, as I said, this is the 8th meeting, and the committee's focus was really on community engagement and outreach and AFFH issues. This would seem like a point that we have gone through a lot of the outreach, that we may want to look at scheduling a future meeting where we would essentially be summarizing the accomplishments of this committee and reporting back to the city council on what was accomplished during what would then be the 9th meeting starting in March, and what this committee did accomplish. So that was really what I see to keep this meeting today, would be to get that agendized so we could think about that. And again, as we get another consultant on board, to then be able to lay out what the schedule for this project is and what the next steps are. So that's really all I had today. I'm happy to turn it back over for a discussion and answer any questions that I can.
All right, thank you, Luke. So first I'm going to go to members of the public. So I'm opening up public comment. And first we have Jennifer. Welcome, Jennifer.
Thank you. Thank you, Luke, for your nice presentation. I did attend the last meeting, the 26th, and it was well attended. Lots of input from everyone. And HCD, I'm just going to throw this out here. HCD has demanded a lot of the cities this last year, and a lot of people's time, a lot of staff time, a lot of public official time, a lot of time that people have spent away from their families a year after pandemic, things still going on. I'll just say personally, I am a bit upset with the way the state has run the housing element, because I think they have had no regard of the public, the staff, the cities, the counties' time, and in terms of coping with what we have been through. I think it's very, very disingenuous of them. I think it's very, very disrespectful. And but yet, you know what? We did our due diligence. We have been thrown down tremendous odds we have to climb through. And we've done the best we could. The staff has, consultants, the city, everyone. We've used all of our resources, all of our time. And still, HCD is not happy. The governor's not happy. That a lot of groups are not happy with the efforts that people in this state and their cities are trying to do. And I will say again, it's like a guinea pig running in a treadmill. We are on this never-ending cycle, and I don't think that the state or HCD has they have an agenda for us, and it's not anything that the public is supposed to be aware of. But I really think that we can be very proud that we have done everything that has been required of us. Mountain View turned in their housing element, and San Francisco did, and HCD did not approve it. They sent back a nasty list of things that you did wrong, like those cities were 3-year-olds, and it's getting a little old. I believe that the upshot of this is that they want to enforce these new housing laws that the governor signed, and that's why HCD is procrastinating on certifying. Therefore, we have done our due diligence, and I think we're going to be going into the EIR phase of this next. I did not appreciate Senator Wiener going on KCBS radio and announcing that San Francisco would be having bad things happen to it because they were not producing housing fast enough and their housing element, yada, yada, yada. Well, I really do think that it's none of Mr. Wiener's business what is going on in other cities across the state. And I really think that I think Cupertino and the staff should be very proud of everything we have done against insurmountable odds. And I'll leave it at that. I'm very proud of my city and the staff because we have done everything that HCD requires, and HCD is like a bad
Thank you,
mother.
Jennifer.
Still not
Thank you.
happy. Thank you.
All right. Okay, do we have any other members of the public with their hands raised? Yes, next we have Yuko Shima. Welcome, Yuko.
Hi, everyone. When I talk about this, most of the, maybe more than 80% of the people get furious in Cupertino, resident voters. But I do see so many homeless people hanging around, near around the Target where I live. And I do see so many recreational vehicles and also regular cars parked here and there, and they sleep there. That means that's their housings. And this is a very controversial issue. Most people don't want them in our city. And what I can say and what I know is that those people, I talk to them, they would love, some of them would love housing, but they don't want to be transported by sheriff's car, and they don't want to take a car. They want to walk bit by bit. They don't have good ability to walk. Some of them have lost ability to think and talk, communicate, because many years they lived alone, isolated. They forgot how to communicate with people. It's mental illness. There are people like that. And many times I hoped I could find transportation to transport them to shelters in San Jose or Mountain View that have openings, but they refuse to take a ride. Somehow they are happy to walk, or they can find it nearby. And I'm not saying that Cupertino should have an emergency shelter, because a lot of people object to it. But if there is a location, maybe we need to utilize the space and the money and resources that we could obtain just to take care of these people, because the number is growing for sure. We all see that in all cities in the Bay Area. And I'm not saying housing them is the solution, but we just have to find somewhere where those people can be taken care of, because before they die of accident or in some way or other. Thank
Okay.
you so much.
Thank you, Yuko. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So not seeing any further hands raised from members of the public, we're closing public comment. And do we have any questions or comments from members of the committee? Okay. I do have one question, Luke. I've heard of another local city which turned in a draft housing element without the EIR associated with it. And I was told they were looking for comments from HCD, and I was wondering if you have an opinion about that that route. Is that something we've considered here, to have something essentially turned in? Is that a wise thing to do, or what are your opinions on that?
Okay, I don't know which city that is, but cities have taken a lot of different approaches to how they're handling CEQA. I've seen some cities, even with large RENA numbers, that did an exemption, because what the EIR is really going to be looking at are the land use changes, like the zoning changes, general plan amendments that would allow the housing to get built. So it's like, that's really what would drive your CEQA analysis more than the housing element itself. So I think in terms of what HCD is looking for, they're going to be looking at the housing element document, not the CEQA process. Their comments are going to be confined to how you're addressing your housing policies, your housing needs. They're not really looking at CEQA. So I could imagine a city doing that, submitting the housing element without addressing whether they're doing an EIR or not, because they're looking to get feedback from HCD. So I could see that approach, but for Cupertino, the reason we're doing the EIR is because we know we're going to need to upzone properties and make land use changes in order to get the housing that we need. So that's why we're doing the EIR really simultaneously with the housing element.
Okay, thank you. And I see the city attorney's hand is up.
Yeah, thanks. So again, I just wanted to sort of reiterate what Luke said. So the requirement is to have CEQA complete by the time that council acts, so the time that council adopts the final housing element. So there's no CEQA-related reason that the HCD review of a draft can't proceed in parallel with the CEQA process.
Okay, and we were just barely thinking about the policy changes. Is there something that we can be doing? I don't know if I'm too off topic, but is there something that we can be doing with regards to scheduling to keep that progressing, or does that require a consultant to facilitate?
So I'll defer to Luke on that one.
Yeah, I think ideally we would like to have a consultant on board, because we're in the process now of kind of assessing where we are with the work completed and then having that transition to the new consultant. So the policies, it's a key component of the housing element. And I think it would be wise to have a consultant on board when we're doing that, we're having that discussion before the city council or any of the city's commissions.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Luke. Next, we have Vice Mayor.
So this is the last meeting of this subcommittee, right? So we'll be continuing the community engagement plan committee.
Well, I'm going to defer to Luke, but it looks like, Vice Mayor, that under future agenda setting, at the very least, we would most likely be having a summary meeting coming in the future, but we'll get to that in a moment. Yeah, so there will be, we do need to have a wrap-up meeting because it's not on this particular agenda, so we still need to meet again in order to do that. And Luke, if you had some input on that, I'd appreciate it.
No, I think that's well said, is that because it's not agendized as a final meeting with a summary, that we should schedule a future meeting where we're summarizing the committee's accomplishments, number of meetings, really what came out of this committee when it was formed on March 8th. And we would summarize that, and that could be a report back to the city council.
Okay, great. So I think maybe is this a good time to talk about what the content of that summary? Or this is not agendized?
I think what Luke suggested is that we agendize that for the next and last meeting of this committee.
Oh, okay, so but then that's when a draft summary will be available. I think the goal of this committee has been trying to achieve the AFFH requirement by the federal and the state. And the committee has done our best to make suggestions to improve the coverage and accessibility of these meetings. So I think it's important that to mention that this format, even though it's different from what EMC initially proposed, does serve that purpose to help achieve the goals of AFFH. And I had hoped that as part of the committee, we would see a draft fair housing assessment of AFFH, since that I understand as part of this, but it doesn't seem to be that's coming. It might be going directly to the council. But at one point it was mentioned the root research or root science is going to be a consultant that provides a lot of the data we need for the fair housing assessment. So I wonder if that's will be a part of the summary or not.
Well, I think what the fair housing assessment is really going to be part of the housing element itself. So that would be part of the draft housing element, which again, I think the goal is to get that before the city council to have that policy discussion as soon as we can.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And next we have Planning Commission Chair Scharf.
Oh, hi. So Luke and Chris, I just, I see that in Southern California, SCAG, Southern California, they got a 3-year extension, not for the housing element, but for the rezoning and the CEQA. Do we know if there's any proposal for other regions to maybe not get 3 years, but maybe get, 6 months or something?
So I'm not aware of that. We can certainly follow up. I'm sure there will be discussion as we get closer to the deadline. As you know, they're about a year ahead of us in Southern California. And so we certainly might have that discussion next year.
Right. I mean, they found it was just not going to be possible. All the cities down there, and they did get that extension. And I think that's, going to be the challenge for all the Northern California cities is doing all that CEQA and rezoning doesn't come quickly. Thank you.
Okay, I do see Planning Manager Pugo, your hand's up. Yes.
Thank you, Chair Moore. So I was at the Cali PA conference earlier in October, and I understand that at one of the seminars there, they actually said that there was no plan to allow an extension for the Northern California cities. The reason the Southern California, at least that was what we were told, is that the reason the Southern California cities got an extension was because they were in the middle of the pandemic when their housing elements were due, and that was the reason why they were given an additional time. But there is no plan at this time to allow that additional time to the Northern California cities.
Okay, thank you. Next, we have Housing Commission Chair Parrish.
Hi, good morning. I just wondered if it's possible to get information from any city that has already been approved on examples. I am concerned about the fair housing requirements, and when we asked EMC, or I directly asked them how we know, are there any guidelines? Are there anything? He just said, we'll know when we know, literally said that. And so I'd like to get some examples on some cities that have had it passed and get, a little more direction to see if we need to be working on that while the council is looking for other, representatives, other consultants, we could perhaps be starting or planning other outreach programs that will meet the fair housing requirement. That's all.
Okay, thank you. And that's perhaps a good question for Luke to consider whether or not we need to conduct more outreach, or had we completed enough already. And I'm also curious about I think it was research, if that if there was a subcontract, and was that work performed, and do we have copies of it already, or what the status is?
On the route policy was providing data. We had a draft of that. I do not believe it was finalized by EMC, but we did receive a draft of their data. I want to say around August. Another, going to Chair Parrish's comments too on cities that have been approved. We could certainly get examples, because we are getting some. I believe the city of Alameda in the Bay Area has already been approved. So my understanding is they had a pretty quick process. I have not read their housing element yet, but that might be a good example we could share. Get a copy of that. It's probably on their website, but we could certainly get a copy and share that with the committee as well. Granted, all cities are different, but it doesn't hurt to look at what cities who have had success have done and see how that might apply to the city of Cupertino. So that is something we could do. But yeah, again, like I said, right now with the transition from consultants, we're kind of at a point the next couple of weeks of assessing where we are and getting somebody else on board to figure out what our next steps are going to be. And I know everybody's eager to hear that and see the schedule. So I want to get that finalized as quickly as we can.
Right. Thank you, Luke. And I don't know if I have a lot of questions. I'm not sure from a legal standpoint. I think that they should be probably asked offline, but I have a lot of questions about what work products we are receiving, and what our actual status is of each element that you're getting. And I've seen the accounts payable, the payments will have some indication of what was being paid for. So I want to ensure that all of those parts are in our possession within what we're allowed to have. So I'm kind of curious about how this process actually works. So ordinarily we see when things are going very well, things are going right, but when things aren't going so well, we're in different territory. So I'd like to hear offline about how this is progressing, and what we're doing moving forward, because it feels a little bit like we don't have well, not a little bit. We don't have that schedule. We don't know what's coming next. So we need to keep the process moving forward, and because time is of the essence, and understanding that we have a challenge that's happened here. And there's a hand raised from Planning Manager Pugh. Welcome.
I seem to be giving updates from places that I've heard of different things from, and I wanted to address something that Commissioner Parrish brought up, which was about, is our AFFH outreach enough? I did want to report back that we do have a collaborative of planning officials that work together on regional issues, and I know at one of the meetings, our approach to the AFFH issue has been commended, and been pointed to as one of the actual ways that other cities could actually perform this kind of outreach. So I did want to kind of assure you guys that all of you in this committee that that our approach to this has been noticed and is being emulated elsewhere. So that was just something I wanted to report back to assure you.
Thank you for that update. That's very encouraging. So
yeah, thank you. That makes me feel better that, we're not going to have to go back to square one or do a lot more before we're done.
I will say that, HCD might comment on it, and we may have to do some bits and pieces to kind of bolster that, but the bulk of it, I think, has been done well.
Thank you.
Great. And I thought the survey, and also I mentioned it was in the meeting minutes. I thought that was a nice addition to round out the input that we have. So with that, do we have any more hands raised from members of the committee? On item 2, that was to receive the report and provide input to staff regarding future community engagement opportunities. And it's sounding that at this point that we've done well with our community engagement, and we're waiting for a consultant to let us know if there's any last things that we might need to bring in. And Vice Mayor?
So I think after this step, there are additional outreach needed, like the scoping session for the EIR and the draft housing element, to get more people to comment on those within the 45 days. So those are, maybe we should have a plan on what channels to use. I see that Memorial Park outreach is like in every city event, festivals, and we might not have that many of those coming up, but we should have a plan on the different channels we can do this outreach for the upcoming housing element items.
Okay. Thank you, Vice Mayor.
Maybe that should be on the next agenda, CEP agenda, or would that be in time for the ERR scoping and draft housing element outreach?
We can get to that item. And so with that, we've completed item 2. Do we have any staff and committee reports? Seeing none, thank you, Luke.
I'm sorry. I was just about to say, no, we did not have any updates. Sorry about that.
Okay, thank you, Luke. So next is future agenda setting. So the first suggestion had been that our next meeting be a summary meeting and discussion, and the Vice Mayor's suggested outreach regarding the EIR scoping. I'm not sure if our original when this committee was originally formed, if that's something that we are covering or not. And if either Chris or Luke know about that. I'm not sure what our outreach would be for scoping. I mean, we can talk about, you could put a banner up, you could put QR codes, lean-to boards, A-frames, and that type of thing. If that's within our scope, that we can have a discussion about that, we could add that to the summarization that we would be doing in our next meeting. And we can talk about how we're going to summarize the about 14 hours worth of meetings we've had so far, and to council, and then have another item, which is EIRs in the CEQA process outreach.
Yeah, I just want to say, I'm not sure how the CEQA outreach through scoping would really fit with the committee. Obviously, for scoping and CEQA, you have requirements. They're not optional. So obviously, we would have to have a scoping meeting. You have to have a public comment period of at least 45 days. You know, all of those things obviously have to happen as part of CEQA. So, you know, I don't know if we wanted to have something where there were just ideas in terms of how to do that outreach or how to increase awareness. I think that would be fine. Just in terms of getting the word out so people are aware of the process, that couldn't hurt.
Okay, sounds good. Vice Mayor.
I was confused too, because I thought this was the last, or the next one will be the last, but then the agenda items is future outreach. That's why I brought that up. And I do think it doesn't quite fit in this original scope of the committee. And also the timeline, I don't know if it fits for this committee to comment on. So
Yeah, well, as I said earlier, it's hard to know what the timeline right now. I mean, all I know is we know we need to get moving on this project quickly. That's kind of the short answer. You know, and I think, you know, the CEQA process sort of is the CEQA process. It's really, I think it's less of an outreach issue. You certainly want people aware that you're encouraging their comments. But I do see it as being different than the outreach and sort of the AFFH focus that the committee originally had. But I think really the next meeting, the goal primarily, as I see it, would be to summarize what the committee did and to be able to report back to council.
Thank you. Housing Commission Chair Parrish.
Yeah, so just a quick comment as well as a thought, suggestion. Maybe when you do meet with council and the powers that be to determine where we're at and where we're going forward, ask them what they would like for the committee. I mean, I'd like to find out what they need and want so that we're most efficient, that would expedite or help the process for council. You know, no one would like to just continue the meetings for, you know what I mean? They take a lot of time and staff. And so anything we could do to expedite that, but we would love to do that. I would like some feedback from council on what the committee going forward. And I am quite happy, not happy, and I'm sad that EMC's out, but I'm also, I think it was wise that they were removed, if that's the case, because they were representative of what was happening. And I don't think they represented Cupertino really well. In a few sense, they did. So, you know, my opinion is irrelevant. I'm just saying I would rather we do it right than have it submitted, not do it right, and have to come back. So I think whatever the city council's approach is right on, is my opinion. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And I am going to open this up to members of the public. I do see one hand raised, and two hands raised. This is regarding our future agenda setting, and be mindful that it needs to be agenda suggestions that we can accommodate within the formation of this committee. So first I have Yuko Shima, your hand's raised. I'm going to unmute.
I think it was me, Ms. Moore.
Oh,
Jennifer.
Okay,
if
so
you wanted
Jennifer.
to do Yuko first, that's okay.
No, you're up top now. I'm not sure how it changed, but anyway, so Jennifer, you're up. Welcome.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. You know, Zoom is such an adventure. Yeah, boy, I'll buy Zoom stock. Anyway, yeah, hi, this is Jennifer Griffin. And, you know, I really do think it's important for this committee to continue. I have personally gotten a great deal of information out of the committee. I have felt more of a part of this process because the committee has been here. I, as a resident of this city, have felt very, very ostracized and disconnected, and thinking there was a lack of transparency from the whole housing element thing. And this, to me, this committee has been a very, very good connection to the public. And I think it's important for this committee to continue in whatever way. We are, it's like going through a snowstorm. We don't know where we're going with the housing element. And I think that trying to move forward, okay, I understand what the CEQA process is, and I appreciate Luke and, oh my God, Pew explaining. I did not know that the CEQA could run parallel to turning in the draft housing element. I think that's very interesting. But see, I only learned this because of the committee. And these are the things that the public needs to know. I mean, I believe the public are a very, very important part of this housing element. This is our land, our future. We spent a great deal of our lives doing things. I will tell you right now, I may not have decided to buy property 20, 30 years ago. If I had known what we were going through now, I might have stayed a happy renter. Or I may have moved out of the state. But I think that keeping this committee intact is very, very important, especially to me. And then I'm looking to this committee to help the public understand what is the draft element part of this, what is the CEQA part of this, and why can't we have SB 197, which is that bill that Southern California got. I'm writing a letter to the city council right now because we need that for Northern California. It's discrimination if we are being treated differently than Southern California. I apologize for getting upset, but this whole process is extremely discriminatory toward Northern California. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. And not seeing any further. Yeah, okay. One more hand raised. All right. Welcome, Yuko.
Thank you again. I just want to talk about something that just I got an idea. I never planned to talk about this in this meeting today, but it just came through my mind regarding this increasing number of unhoused street living population that I mentioned earlier. Obviously, nobody wants shelters near public parks or near our single home family residential area, commercial district. We don't want to see emergency shelters in obvious places because that will give people impression that the city may be cheap or the house over there is not as expensive as the other part of Cupertino, something like that. So it's very difficult where to put any kind of sanctuary location where those people could temporarily be accepted to be evaluated by doctors or be seen by therapists, to be given an opportunity to be transported to other shelters that are specializing in taking care of them with their expertise and commitment. I thought about maybe churches could be obligated to accept such obligations, like if residents report a homeless person or 2 or 3 or 5 or maybe 3, then churches could, for example, call the Santa Clara County or call the Valley Medical Center for their resources to be able to accommodate the homeless person. If churches ignore the homeless people, what are they for? Churches that are willing to accept this obligation to be a call center, to accept a call for the need of helping homeless people temporarily. That may be one idea to like
Muted. Pardon, I'm muted. See, I'm closing public comment. I see a hand raised from the vice mayor.
So, yeah, I think it's true that over the past few months, this committee has been a venue. Public has been able to comment on housing element, even when it's not directly on the affirmatively furthering fair housing. This committee represents Housing Commission, Planning Commission, and the Council. Maybe I would propose for the next meeting, we have an agenda item that makes a recommendation to the council on a form of continuation of this committee, but maybe rename it as Housing Element Community Engagement Committee. So that throughout the process, until we are certified, there is a place people can come to and ask questions and get updates.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I agree with that suggestion, and I do think from the amount of comments that we've had, we're at 15 hours of meetings just from this one committee, and each one we've had many opportunities for the public to speak, and I think it's really served a good purpose. So I agree with you for continuing this on, even if the meetings are, if they're shorter and more simply updates to the community so that they can express their concerns about how things are going with regards to our outreach. I think there is some value added, so I agree with you there. So if that could be added on, that works great. So next item we need to do here is pick a time and a day for us to all get together. So we were thinking sometime in November. And if Luke has a suggestion for a day, we need to all pull up our calendars.
Well, is Friday the day of the week that seems to be working the best?
So far, yeah.
For me, yes.
Kind of moved to Fridays, so given the Thanksgiving, I don't know if it would be better to do it like an early December meeting.
December 2nd.
That would make more sense than trying to have it. It would either be too soon or we run into Thanksgiving. So maybe December 2nd would be the best.
That works for me, but we need to hear from the rest of the committee.
Works.
So
for me.
it works. Okay.
Yeah,
So
that's fine. And
okay,
Madam
good.
Chair, hopefully the new consultant will be on board by then and would be able to attend.
Yeah, that would be great. And Housing Commission Chair Parrish, how does December 2nd, Friday at 11 a.m. look? I think we might have just lost you.
Yeah, I think she's not there anymore.
Oh, no. Okay, well, for now, we do have a quorum. If someone can reach out. I'm not sure what happened there. Hold on. Oh, her computer just died and it works. The date works. Okay. So with that, we have completed our future agenda setting, and we're coming up on 12 o'clock and we are adjourned. We'll see everyone after Thanksgiving. Have a happy Thanksgiving, and we'll meet again December 2nd at 11 o'clock. Right.